Welcome to today's discussion on narration, description, and reflection. Strategies for personal essays. Personal essays explore some dimension of the writer's experience by blending narration, description, and reflection. Personal essays often tell stories, not ones that the writers have made up, but ones they have lived. As you prepare to write your own story, get ready to relive it yourself, to re-experience all that you have felt, thought, or sensed during the actual event. In addition, be ready to learn something new about the experience, about others, and even about yourself. Your goal is to help readers see, hear, touch, and taste those details that make the experience come alive. To put a personal essay in context, consider the rhetorical situation, and that's what gives rise to it. Purpose. The goal of such writing is to explore topics or issues with which writers have a personal connection. A writer's aim is to deepen his or her own insight while sharing it with the readers. Readers. Who are they? Most personal essays are written for a general audience, though they may be directed to a specific segment of society. The writer hopes that his or her personal experience will speak universally, that readers will empathize and connect with it. Topic. Writers address any topic that they find meaningful and worth exploring through the lens of personal experience and reflection. Often events, people, and places from their own lives play a role. Principles of narration. Personal essays often center on engaging narratives, stories that focus on meaningful events and people. We'll start with action. This refers to the unfolding sequence of events shaped into a meaningful whole, a force that drives a narrative forward. Consider these strategies. Handling chronology. Narrative is time-sensitive, so a good narrative handles time effectively through clear temporal markers, verb tenses, and time transitions. Moreover, the narrative manages temporal placing by focusing in on key events and compressing or summarizing less significant action. Clarifying the action. Narratives move forward energetically when writers use precise, engaging, and suggestive verbs, as well as shaping the plot. A narrative's overall pattern may take many forms, but the traditional structure builds tension and complication toward a climactic moment of decision or discovery, followed by aftermath and resolution. Character. While events, what happened and why, are often the focus of a narrative, frequently the narrative's focus is character, what the events reveal about people. Characters need to be well developed and engaging in order to reveal things about life and human nature. Narrative shows people feeling, thinking, acting, and interacting. Dialogue. Conversations are used in narrative to reveal character, advance the action, and embody the conflict. Typically chosen for significant moments in the action, such dialogue should be natural in word choice, voice, and sentence rhythms. Narrative perspective. In a personal narrative, the writer is typically the narrator, the voice telling the story. However, the narrative voice might be in the foreground, participating in the action, or the background, observing the action. And finally, setting. Action happens, and people live within specific places and times. The narrative setting puts events and characters in physical, historical, and cultural context. Principles of description. Effective descriptive passages of places, people, and objects offer precise, evocative details that help readers thoughtfully experience the essay's topic. Such description may aim for fidelity, objectivity through accurate and complete details, including measurements, and so on. Naming. At its base, description identifies things, and the beginning of such identification is naming. Among available terms, choosing words that precisely or suggestively clarify the nature of what is being described. Detailing. Description appeals to the senses through concrete details, details that may be precise but also rich in connotations and associations. Details that appeal to sight create a mental picture for readers. Sounds and smells tend to evoke feelings and memories. Taste and touch generate a sense of intimacy. Ordering. While they may involve a single detail, descriptions are often much fuller. In that case, writers may need to 1. Establish a vantage point from which readers will see the object, 2. Orient the object in space, and 3. Lead readers systematically through the description. Comparing. Descriptions may be clarified and deepened through comparisons. Here are 3 common options. Simile is a comparison of 2 things in which like or as is used. For example, my friends have given me an official item of exercise equipment that looks like a glob of blue putty. Metaphor is a comparison in which one thing is said to be another, establishing an identity. Neither like nor as is used. Some people were the moths tied down and struggling. Some were the spiders growing fat on gossip. Personification is a device in which the author speaks of or describes an animal, object, or idea as if it were a person. I looked at all the little pillows up there, snuggled next to the blankets. Principles of reflection. In a personal essay, strong reflective passages from single sentences to entire paragraphs relay the writer's observations and insights regarding the nature, impact, and value of the experience. Natural observation. Reflection within a personal essay should have an organic feel, arising naturally out of the material presented, out of the narration and the description. That reflection can be thematically implied or openly stated, depending on the writer's purpose. Essentially, however, the reflection should be honest, meaningful, and thought-provoking for readers, pressing them to connect with and universalize the experience. Thesis thinking. The key idea of a personal essay typically grows out of the writer's questions about the meaning of the experience, more than a simple statement or a fact or a cliched opinion. Unlike a conventional academic essay, a personal narrative is about your own experiences or feelings. Still, a personal narrative contains a thesis, which really just means the main point you are trying to communicate. Because a personal narrative is more artistic than a regular essay, you don't need a one-sentence thesis that neatly summarizes your argument. Instead, you can get creative and write a thesis that is more suggestive or ambiguous. Thinking in terms of main point, you can begin a personal narrative by simply stating the main point of your piece. If, for instance, your narrative is about a difficult experience during your childhood, start with something like, "Childhood experiences stay with us all of our lives, even the bad ones." Beginning your thesis with the main point clues your reader immediately into what you'll be talking about. Be clear and expand on your main point in the sentences that follow. Thinking in terms of putting your thesis in the middle of your paper. Mid-thought. Sometimes the best personal narrative thesis begins in the middle of a thought. This places the reader right in the middle of the action and can be a more gripping way to begin the thesis. For example, in a personal narrative about your first day of kindergarten, begin with something like, "Why do I still remember that day after all of these years?" Instead of simply telling your reader the lesson you try to impart, you are setting up an anecdote by showing its effect in the present. Chronologically, personal narratives are stories, so it's entirely acceptable to begin your thesis by launching right into the story from the beginning. Also, mid-anecdote. Although your personal narrative is a story about you, yourself, your thesis can begin with a short anecdote that pertains to your story. So you have a lot of options when it comes to your thesis, but your thesis is very important. So now we're to principles of organization. If a personal essay centers on a narrative, the organization will largely be determined by chronology, arranged according to the logic of the plot. We'll begin with the opening. The opening seeks to get readers' attention, usher them into the world of the essay, and orient them to the topic through techniques like memory, image, an idea, a conflict, a puzzle, a moment from the middle or near the end of the story. Remember that personal essays don't always need to open at the beginning of the story. They can start from the middle or the end of the action. The middle. The body of the essay may weave together elements of narration, description, and reflection to deepen interest and possibly build toward a climax, a moment of discovery or decision. This process may involve bringing together strands of the past and the present, introducing tensions, complications, and conflicts, focusing on key moments, episodes, and encounters, foreshadowing what is to come or creating a puzzle to be solved, comparing events, settings, or characters, moving from a broad view to a narrow focus. And then the closing. Traditional narratives follow the climax with a fallout and a resolution, revealing the results of a conflict and the outcome. Other narratives, however, aim to be more open-ended. The ending might also focus on authentic reflection. That leaves readers with food for thought. Finally, it might supply a surprise, dramatic turn of events, or it might return to the opening in some way. So, in your text on page 158 and 159, you have some writing guidelines. You will also receive writing guidelines through the email, but it would be really good for you to follow along on pages 158 and 159. It helps you with planning, selecting a topic, getting the big picture, probing the topic and revealing what you find, being organized, drafting, and then reviewing your draft and improving the ideas, organization, and voice, as well as editing and publishing. Thank you and good luck.